Good morning, All Souls. It's Monday, April 20th, 420 Day. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's National Pot Day. Back in the 70s, the police code for marijuana use in progress was 420. And you might be surprised to hear those words coming out of my mouth. Why are we talking about this? Well, because the reality is pot is one of our favorites in this country, favorite escapes. Sometimes it's, for some of us, it's drinking. For others of us, it's Netflix. For others of us, it's exercise. It doesn't matter what it is. We all have an escape of sorts that we run to when times get overwhelming, when they're hard, when we need to numb ourselves and escape from the difficult realities of life. But if there's anything that the coronavirus has taught us, is that sometimes life comes crashing down on us really hard, and there is no escape. There's nothing that's going to actually numb us enough. Those regular escapes, the 420s, if you will, aren't working. No matter how hard we try, it's not changing the reality around us. And when that high comes down, we're tasting and seeing freshly the bitterness of how difficult these times are. Now, listen, it's Monday morning. I'm not trying to be a downer in bringing this up. What I'm trying to do is use 420 to get you to see a different 420. Luke 4:20. Luke 4:20 says this, that when he had finished saying these things, he rolled up the scroll and he sat down. Who and what? Well, it's Jesus. It's talking about Jesus in Nazareth, as he had just preached in a synagogue, and he had just opened up to Isaiah 61, and he said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to preach good news to the captives, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, the restoration of sight to the blind, freedom for the captives." It's this bold proclamation of Jesus at the very beginning of his earthly ministry saying, I've come to fix what's broken in this world. And let me translate what Jesus is saying underneath that for us. He's saying that the broken things in this world are not okay. That our God from the beginning has said the things that don't work the way that they're supposed to, where the fabric of creation has been ripped open, those things are not okay. And it's specifically what Jesus has come to fix. On Sunday, yesterday, we began a new sermon series in the book of Joel that's all about a plague that has come and settled in on God's people. And the very first thing that Joel, the prophet, God through Joel, commands his people to do is lament. Is to grieve and mourn this reality, not to numb ourselves from it, not to go the way of 420 in California, but to go a different direction of Luke 4:20, to go in the direction of, hey, there's something broken and we need someone who can fix it. We need the God who made it all in the beginning to put it all back together. And thanks be to God, that's precisely who our Jesus is. And so this week, All Souls as a church, what we're encouraging all of us to do is to enter in with step one. Step one, according to the book of Joel, is to lament, is to grieve what's broken. And some of you, as we talked about yesterday, haven't really had too much to grieve. You've been isolated, you've been restricted, but you haven't been grieving because you haven't lost people close to you. You haven't felt the same sort of struggle, and that's okay. You don't need to feel guilty about it, but what there is a call to is a grieving of the situation, whether it's your particular situation or the situation that's broader than your specific situation, is recognizing that there's something that's severely broken and that there are many suffering because of it. In fact, there's a name that we've been praying for, Manal, a friend of ours who was on a ventilator and then came off, and we celebrated, and she's back on that ventilator, and we're asking for more prayer. Why? Because this isn't a quick fix. She's a great example of how we've got to keep railing against, being angry at the invasion of this disease, and yet at the very same time proclaiming there is a God whose steadfast love is better than life. There is a God who put on skin to enter into our pain. There is a God who says that this is not only not okay, but it's not the end of the story. How we get on that path with that God is through lamenting what is broken, and getting into the boat that we talked about yesterday called sadness, so that it can take us somewhere, so that it can actually help us release what really hurts, so rather than pushing it down, so that we can look that brokenness in its face, in its eyes, and say, you hurt, but you're not the end of the story. An interesting invitation on a Monday morning, but will you spend some time today lamenting? I invite you, our God invites us to spend time lamenting what's broken, not because he wants us to stay in the sadness, but because if we don't enter the boat called sadness, we don't get to where it's designed to take us, which is freedom, release, and hope. For the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning, new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. May you actually enjoy that in a deeper and richer way today, because you choose to lament and there find our Savior weeping with you, but calling you to a much bigger picture and a much better hope. May he be with you today.